Welcome to Bourbon School. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Brian, and today we are going to give you our Mount Rushmore of bourbon distilleries. Coming up next.
All right, Brian, where'd you get this idea from?
Totally stolen from TikTok. I figured if we're getting zero traction with our TikToks, I'm going to get something out of this adventure. Yeah. So yeah, somebody on TikTok did their Mount Rushmore, and they did bottles. Mm-hmm. And I've actually seen a lot of articles and videos where people do their Mount Rushmore bottles. Here's the thing. Most of those bottles are things we'll never get because of price or availability.
Well, I like your take on this.
So I thought we'd do distilleries. If you were going to make a Mount Rushmore of distilleries that are just kind of the icons of bourbon, who would you put up there? And then the little twist we put on it was a couple of up-and-comers. If you were going to add somebody to Mount Rushmore. Actually, if you were going to add a president to Mount Rushmore, who would it be?
Oh, God. Probably Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt. Mine would be James K. Polk.
Oh, my God, you guys are
Shut up, Polk. Get the Polk out of here.
Yeah, no, I would. 100%.
What nerds?
Look it up. James K. Polk. They even wrote a song about
Warmonger.
him. They even wrote a song about him. They might be giants. James K. Polk. Okay. So anyway, we're going to pick two that we would add in addition, that maybe are kind of newer distilleries, but we can see them being kind of down the road.
They've got a future for themselves.
Yes, they might be the next ones that you'd be like, man, I remember when they started out or whatever. Okay.
I like it.
Okay, so why don't we always do ladies first, so go ahead. And you can tell us our first, and also the other thing we did was a bottle that exemplifies this brand. So you go first.
Okay, so Brian did not predict this for me, but I picked Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
Not, I know that it's not technically in, Kentucky.
Doesn't have to be in Kentucky.
No, it doesn't. But so I picked Jack Daniels just because it's just an exemplar of the brand. Yeah. And I'm not talking about Old Number 7. I'm talking about their good stuff. They have so many awesome offerings that you just, people associate it with the bottom shelf.
Yeah.
Which I still think is okay. But once you you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm sorry.
So I picked my favorite, which is the single barrel proof.
Yes.
And it's just delicious. They make excellent products way beyond the basic. And I got to travel there, and when I went to the distillery, we did a tasting, and I didn't even realize how many offerings they have. And it's just not stuff that you see all the time. This you do see.
Yeah, right.
But it's good quality, technically bourbon.
It is. Let's just end it. Don't hate us in the comments. It's bourbon.
So yeah, and I think sometimes it gets underrated. And Jack Daniels is quintessential to whiskey, so I feel like it has to be on Mount Rushmore.
I agree 100%. And anything in this bottle with the gold label. Oh yeah. The rye is great too, but that's a good pick.
Yeah, you gotta look for the shape.
Yes, absolutely. Shape. Those little squatty bottles are the best Jack Daniels there is. Okay, for me, I went with Wild Turkey. So wait, I won't put my bottle up there yet.
Not yet, okay.
But Wild Turkey, I think it's I don't know. I feel like it's the quintessential old school bourbon. Like
a grandpa bourbon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they talked about it in Christmas Vacation. But it's just when I went to Kentucky.
It's a classic.
Yes. And when I went to Kentucky the first time, it was one of the distilleries that I was oh, Wild Turkey. That's old. I think I did think it was old man bourbon, but then I went and tried it, and I'll never forget. And I think I've told this story before, so if I'm repetitive, I apologize. You can cuss me out in the comments. But I remember going, and they were here, try this Wild Turkey 101. And I was whoa, that's it's a little hot for me. But it was great.
How long ago was that?
This was, oh gosh, probably 10 years ago was the first time I went to Kentucky. But it was great.
101.
Yeah, right. I know. Child's play. But Wild Turkey, I think, is a quintessential Kentucky bourbon. It's it needs to be on Mount Rushmore. You got little old Jimmy Russell still at the distillery signing bottles. Come on. So, and the one that I picked as the exemplar for them is Rare Breed. This happens to be the non-chill filtered, but the regular one is excellent as well. it's just like, it's a perfect proof. It's like everything you want out of your bottle of Wild Turkey. I do like the Russell single barrels. They're a little harder to find. I wanted to pick something that was like you can just go get.
Yeah.
So like this is a bottle. This was one of, actually two of my picks are like my very first like higher proof bourbons. And so I have a special affinity for them. But I think Rare Breed is like the bottle of Wild Turkey that like.
It's like this gold standard.
Yes,
like
I
minimum,
think.
like of the best.
Yes,
of their better
exactly,
offerings.
exactly. All right, you go.
Okay, so I was kind of tangled between Maker's Mark and Woodford Reserve.
Yeah, I watched you right here struggle with this.
About it because I really do love Woodford Reserve, and like it has the kind of the gravitas of it being it's a vocab word of the day, of being like the bourbon that they make for the Kentucky Derby, right?
Yeah,
they use it in their what's the cocktail? Jeez,
the mint julep.
The mint julep.
Yeah.
So I was like, it has that kind of historical gravitas to it.
For sure.
But I drink more Maker's Mark than Woodford Reserve. And so I picked Maker's Mark.
Okay.
I just feel like any bar you go to in the United States, this is old reliable.
Yes.
It will always be there.
Yep.
It's a traditional bourbon. It's been around for a long time.
Yep.
And it's a very it's a Kentucky bourbon. It's a standard bourbon they're always going to see. So I felt like it was like, this belongs on Mount Rushmore here.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good
Everyone knows the wax.
Yes.
Like it's a classic bourbon that everybody knows, everybody drinks. You can mix it, you can sip it, whatever.
Do you think on your bourbon Mount Rushmore you would put like Bill Samuels up there and then drizzle some red racks over his head?
On his head,
Yeah.
over his body.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I
Okay.
think that should definitely
if
be
you're
there.
into that kind of thing. All right. My next one, I don't think this is going to come as any surprise. My next one is Old Forester. I think Old Forester is like classic Kentucky bourbon.
And it's old.
It's old.
Yeah.
It's in the name, guys. It's Old Forester. But I like that they have a history. It connects to American history.
Yes.
It's connected to like the Civil War. It's connected to Prohibition. And they happen to make really damn good bourbon. So
I think Old Forester.
Yeah, I think Old Forester is a classic American brand.
Brian picked that one before I could.
Yeah, I like when we were.
Did it on purpose.
He did it. He was like, "These are mine."
We were texting about this. I was like, "I'm picking Wild Turkey and Old Forester. Suck it."
These are my ideas, and this is mine. So now what do you say?
Well, in fairness, you could have everything else. So you had a pretty
You're
large
good.
pool to
I'm
draw
just
from.
fully endorsing Old Forester.
Yeah,
on Mount
absolutely.
Rushmore.
I think
So-
you guys mean Forester.
No, not Forester. It's F-O-R, not F-A-R. So the bottle that I picked, and I don't think this will come as a surprise either, is 1920. And
Well, where'd you find that empty?
It's empty. I had it over in my empty bottle box. So I have a plan. So I have all these empty bottles because my grand plan is to do like busted bottle art with the epoxy and stuff. And Ben, Bourbon Note Ben has done a few of these and they came out great. So I just have to go buy the epoxy and then
I'm gonna see you at the next Makers Fair.
Yeah.
Selling your artwork.
The next like summer craft fair,
Craft
I'll
fair.
be there with my. But so I keep these bottles, but the 1920 I think is again, it's like classic Old Forester flavors. It's a perfect proof. It's 115. I think there's a theme here because the Wild Turkey is 116. But I like. This is
come
another
so far.
one. Yes, but this is another one that was like one of my first higher proof bourbons, and it's got a special place in my heart. But I also think it is ideal Old Forester. I mean, the single barrels are really nice, and they are a little easier to find. But again, I wanted to stick to stuff you could find very easily, and you can get this on the shelf anywhere. And I think it is a kind of, it's the best of the Whiskey Row series, and it is like a perfect representation of Old Forester bourbon, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
What do you got?
All right. So for the last section where we have potentials.
Yes, this is up and comers that
Yeah.
you could see on Mount Rushmore someday. Your James K. Polks or your Franklin Delano Roosevelts.
So Penelope, I think easily could have been
Yes.
up here too.
Yes.
I kind of tend to put Penelope and Redwood Empire in the same category sometimes. I think because the bottles are the same.
They are
They're
tall,
similar,
skinny
tall,
bottles.
skinny
Yeah,
bottles,
for sure.
But this we liked early on in the channel.
Right
We
from the
tried it
start.
right away. It's been consistently good. Brian was just trying. What is that one that you just tried?
Oh, the Lost Monarch cask strength?
cask
Yeah.
strength. And he was bragging about it, so now I need to try me some of that later. But the design is really cool. It's not a Kentucky bourbon, so they're out in California.
Yep.
And I like the whole concept of naming their bourbons after elements of nature. And so I like their concept, and their bourbon is really good. It's middle of the road priced for the most part, and it's easy to find, and it's just a good consistent product, and I think it's already very popular, but I think it's gonna grow from here.
I think you're right. Like everything they've put out has been good so far. They're doing a ton of different stuff. I think they really do have the potential to be that kind of distillery someday. I really like their stuff. It's a good pick.
Okay.
All right, mine is, I stuck with Kentucky, not for any really reason. I just, it didn't have to be in Kentucky, but I just thought this was one that I can see being one of those, like in 10 or 20 years, being one of those distilleries. I don't have a bottle because this is going to sound odd too. I don't love all their stuff, but Bardstown Bourbon Company. They are, if you go to Kentucky and go see Bardstown, it's huge. Like a giant campus with all these rick houses. And people love their bourbon. I have not been a fan of a lot of it. There's one or two here and there that I like. But I guess I'm thinking more of kind of from the business side. They bought Green River.
Yeah,
like
they're expanding.
Yes, I think they've got their eye on sourcing, much like MGP. And I think that's going to propel them to being a huge player. And if they keep, I mean, by all accounts, a lot of their bourbon, especially the more expensive stuff, is very good quality. Like, people like it. And maybe that's why I haven't fallen in love with it, because I haven't swam in those waters, the higher price
Which bottle
stuff.
would you pick if you could pick one?
I would pick, I would pick the Origin series, because that is their stuff. It's all like their 6-year-old bourbon. It's stuff they distilled themselves, and it's not blended with any other bourbons from sourcing, and it's kind of their, flag in the ground. So Origin series would be like their exemplar, I guess. And then of course they do have higher priced ones that they are collaborations with other people. But I think Origin series is probably the ones that you want to probably say, like, this is Bardstown Bourbon Company. So, but I think they're going to end up being a pretty big legacy kind of distiller in the years to come. So that's my pick.
All right.
All right.
That was fun. I like
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a fun concept.
Can you envision the Mount Rushmore?
I know. I don't
piece?
even know. I'm just envisioning the bottles instead of faces now.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, if you liked our video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell for notifications.
So you never miss another episode of Bourbon School. And let us know in the comments what would be on your Mount Rushmore of bourbon distillers.
We definitely left some out.
Yeah, for sure. And we definitely could. You could do bottles too. We just thought for kind of what we do, it makes more sense to do distillers, because probably the ones that we would put on Mount Rushmore are ones we've never even had.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And Lauren, cheers.
Cheers.